Thomas Essen has this great question. Having befriended or become acquainted with a number of high-level artists and craftspeople in your career, they're referring to me, including writers and directors and showrunners, have you ever had to deal with the awkwardness of a discussion with them doing a project you strongly disliked? Let's say someone you generally admire, but you didn't care for one book, one film, and they asked your opinion. If so, how did you handle it? If not, how might you imagine handling it? Look, this is a lifelong journey of how to give your opinion and when it's truly being asked for, and when it's not being asked for. First of all, when they asked your opinion, I will say that to the largest degree, adults, in my experience, working at a high level, don't often ask other adults what they think of something they made. And I appreciate that. There's so much around this space. And I wrote down in Los Angeles, no one talks about movies. And this is because, like, Los Angeles is a movie town. It's an industry town. There's a bunch of other stuff that happens in Los Angeles, but so much of it is movies. Like, you could come from New York, where in New York, a movie comes out, you're like, that movie was crap. Like, that's how New Yorkers talk to each other. That's fine. But you don't want to be in a breakfast joint in LA going, that movie was crap, and it turns out the director was sitting next to you. That sucks. That sucks for him. That sucks for them. That sucks for you. So in LA, everyone's very circumspect about what they say out in public about movies. They don't just say that movie sucked or I hated that kind of stuff. Because everyone in LA is also really clear that it's hard to make a thing. Even it takes all your energy just to make a bad movie, let alone taking all your energy to make a good movie. And so in LA, there's this deep professional courtesy that sort of permeates the whole movie culture there, which is we all know it's hard to make a thing. We all know it's not your fault that movie was bad, and we're all just like, be quiet about it. I think that's really lovely. Now, I have occasionally asked people what they thought of my work. I have sought someone out here and there in my life. Said, what do you think of this body of work? And I've also had people unabashedly tell me what they think of my work. And I really appreciate that too. Oh, okay. I'm going to wander a bit here, but like I had a one-person group. I had a one-person show in San Francisco back in 1991, 92, and it was at this Frenchy coffee shop called Espace, and There were like some intense French people running this cafe, and I was like, these people are intense. They remind me of the weird French bank robbers from the movie Killing Zoe. And it turned out one of them was the French bank robber from the movie Killing Zoe. Anyway, I had a one-person show in this gallery, and my friend Todd came to it. And I worked really hard for this show. I made a bunch of new pieces for it. And Todd came in, and he was like, Todd's a very good friend of mine. He was like, dude, a lot of these pieces look a little thrown together. What's going on with that? And Todd wasn't wrong. And I really appreciated this perspective from him. It didn't feel like an insult because it wasn't. That was just an artist talking to me. And there is this really hilarious historical moment when Robert Altman was getting ready to make his insanely brilliant Western, McCabe and Mrs. Miller. He was looking for the music, and he couldn't figure out what the music he wanted. And then he heard Leonard Cohen's music, and he realized, this is the music I want for McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Leonard Cohen did the music for McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and it's really amazing. But Robert Altman called Leonard Cohen, and Leonard Cohen picks up the phone. Says, oh my God, Robert Altman, wow, I love your movies. And this is like the early 70s, so MASH, Robert Altman's film MASH, had just come out with Elliot Gould and Donald Sutherland. And so Leonard Cohen says to Robert Altman, I love your movies. And Robert Altman says, oh, did you like MASH? And Leonard Cohen goes, no, not very much. But I love Nashville. this, what a pure soul. I can never imagine a universe in which I could say that to a director I loved who just called me out of the blue at my apartment in Paris to ask me to do music for his movie. I still respect Leonard Cohen for being like, no, I didn't like that. And it wasn't personal. It was just, that was my thing. I think culturally it's easy to personalize our work, the way, how we feel about it, how other people feel about it. But there's that interaction between Leonard Cohen and Robert Altman, and it's not personal and it's really sweet. Robert Altman tells the story because it's hilarious. So I have a couple of times had big directors ask me to look at something they were working on. The first time I was asked to come watch a screening of a film in progress. No, I'm not going to tell you which one or who. And I went to that screening thinking it was a social event. This is a long time ago. It's like 15 or more years ago. I went to this screening thinking, oh my God, the director asked me to the screening. And it really didn't occur to me that they were sort of deepening our friendship a little bit. They were asked, I think they genuinely wanted to know what I thought of this. And if I had any specific things, like that part was slow, that part could have been a little, I thought this thing was interesting. And I wasn't watching it with any of those thoughts in my head. I was just sort of in the G. Willikers mode. And I regret that. I didn't see it coming. I didn't realize what was being asked of me. And then a few years later, another director I admired sent me some stuff they were working on and asked me what I thought. And in that case, I gave a really detailed breakdown of what I thought, both globally and locally. Like I said, oh, I think this is good. I like this one. Of these pieces, I thought this was the strongest. And then within these pieces, I thought these kinds of cuts or sequences didn't work. And I didn't hear back from them. Actually, I did hear back from them just a couple of years later. And we didn't discuss that thing again. So I don't know if my advice or my opinion was useful to them, but it didn't make them no longer contact me. So that's positive. At this point, I would really, really seek to try and be useful to the request, what do you think of my work? And when someone asks you, that's all that they're really asking. They're really just asking you to give your impression. It's a thorny thing, and it requires real trust between the two parties. The time you shouldn't say what you think of someone's work in front of you is when they haven't asked you. That's really, I believe that. Like, I don't think the opinion is, this is why I'd like the LA sort of agreement in the film industry. Let's all be quiet about it unless and until we're asked, and then we can move on. Want to ask me a question during a live stream? Become a tested member by clicking the join link right around there somewhere.